Hello and welcome to Minus the Hangover, the no and low alcohol drinks podcast that reaches the parts other podcasts can't reach, with me, Christophe Phillips.
And with me, Pete Mason.
In today's episode, we're asking a potentially bombshell question. Is food boozy? That's right, we're exploring the everyday levels of alcohol found in food. So we're taking a deep dive on which foods and how much alcohol we might find in them, and asking what it means for no-low drinks, and should we, the consumer, be worried? Pete, just to be clear, we're not talking about special food like flambe where you've added booze to it and you're burning it off, or bolognese with a glug of wine, or even like your nan's super boozy trifle or a Black Forest gatto. We're talking normal food, yeah?
Yeah, I think most people will know or realise that, kind of food that we add alcohol to contains alcohol.
Oh, in shock horror, but yes.
Absolutely. And so if they're avoiding alcohol, they'll know to avoid those as well. Yeah. However, there are other food and drink items which do contain levels of alcohol that you might not know about.
Not only that, as we do with every episode, we'll be tasting 3 drinks and offering up a simple thumbs up or thumbs down on if we like them enough to buy them again. So today we have our first ever spirit with Captain Morgan's Spiced Gold 0.0% alcohol-free spirit, or in layman's terms, a 0% spiced rum. Then Aldi brand, I want to say Ålska?
Apparently it's Ålska.
Ålska Nordic Berries 0% cider, and then Trip Lemon Basil CBD spritz drink. So, Pete, I think it's about time we get the show on the road with our very first tasting, and as mentioned, our very first spirit, with Captain Morgan's Spiced Gold 0% rum.
Sounds good.
So, as mentioned, this is a spirit drink, or commonly known to us as a rum. But that's the big question, because it is a 0.0% rum. Now, I just want to say, this was given to me by a very good friend, Bethan Lane. Thank you very much. Specifically so that we could try it for this podcast. Now, the producer of Captain Morgan is Diageo, which is a monster brand, produces lots of different things.
Very big company.
Of course, being a spirit, this comes in a full-size spirit bottle, so 70 centilitres. But you know what, Pete? I think we should just get on with it. Should we just have a taste?
Yeah, let's do that.
So just as I pour, it is in a clear bottle, so you can see it, and it really does look the part like Captain Morgan's spiced rum. If you haven't come across that before, it's a very gold kind of honey colour. But I'm going in on the smell.
Oh, that smells surprisingly like rum. And I don't know
really
why
does.
I'm surprised by this.
It really does. Now, first off, what's lifting off is those spices. So we're getting everything that you'd get with a standard spiced rum, if you will.
I mean, it's a lot of kind of raisins and kind of sugar cane molasses almost to it.
Definitely.
But there can't be any sugar in it, because if it's only 2 calories per 100 ml, it must be sweetened artificially, as it were. There can't be sugar in it. It almost smells alcoholic. It's mid-morning at the moment, and it's making me feel a little bit ill, but not in a bad way.
What a glowing endorsement.
Well, no, what I mean is, at this time of day, I would not want to be smelling a Captain Morgan or any kind of standard rum.
Yeah.
And it's delivering the same kind of olfactory unpleasantness in that sense as I would expect. So this is an endorsement.
Got that oomph. It's certainly got that oomph, like it does have alcohol. There's something in there that's really lifting off. It's very, very convincing. I'm getting quite a lot of complexity, actually. There's vanilla coming through. There is that raisiny feel and that almost Christmas cake smell to it.
Yeah, kind of spices, basically, I suppose.
Well, spices, but also the rind of fruits as well.
The peel.
The peel, that's what I'm thinking of. So, getting a lot coming through.
It is quite pungent. A lot of the non-sparkling drinks that we've tried don't have a lot of aroma to them, and this has a lot of aroma.
It really does. Let's go in.
Well, I don't know what I was expecting. It's got a lot of texture to it, so I think there's probably some like vegetable glycerin or something in like that in there. Mm-hmm. There's something to the body of it there, just the actual feel of it.
Sure. First impressions is with such a convincing aroma, the taste is a letdown because it just doesn't carry that wallop that you get from the smell so convincingly. That's not to say it's not, nice. I think it is quite nice. I think it's certainly not unpleasant. But does it carry that whack, that wallop that you're expecting? No, it doesn't, and it is slightly odd.
I think it's fair to say that the flavour of it is not as strong as the aroma is. And as you say, it's not as convincing. And I think it doesn't really do the job for me. When we were talking about wine in that previous episode, I talked about sippability. And unfortunately, this actually doesn't feel particularly sippable to me straight. Oh, by the way, I think it's worth telling everyone we are trying this without ice. We're trying it neat.
Yes. And the reason for that, actually, we had quite a little chat on this, is because that is down to a personal taste, how you might drink any spiced rum, any spirit neat. But ultimately, we didn't want to dull any of the flavour, any of the impact, which is one of the roles that adding ice to a spirit can do.
Yeah, and it's a good job we didn't as well, because at room temperature like this is, there's not a lot to it taste-wise. There's a sweetness to it, and then the aftertaste does have a level of bitterness. But overall, I would not want to drink this neat. I wouldn't choose to do it. It's not unpleasant. It's just not that much there.
It's just not doing a lot, and that's the sort of issue with it. The smell, the aroma absolutely sells it as being this big, big flavour. And then when you get it, it's very muted in comparison. So, just to pick up, you can get this for yourself at Asda, at Ocado, most supermarkets, in fact. I spotted it for £11.96 at Asda, but it does range quite a bit in price. As I mentioned, this is made by Diageo, who are a big monster producer. They have loads and loads of brands that you may well know. But they also have form with other no-low spirits. There is Gordon's 0.0% gin. There's a Ritual Zero Proof brand, which covers rum, gin, agave, whiskey, and aperitifs and Aperol alternatives. And there's Tanqueray 0.0% as well. They also majority own Seedlip, which is one of the sort of granddaddies of no-low spirits in particular. They've been majority owner since 2019. Just before we move on, I was curious about what a spiced rum is, actually. So I couldn't find the ingredients list for this because they're listed directly as being proprietary, meaning it's kind of a secret. That being said, you can look up recipes for spicing your own rum. So just to give you an idea of the flavours, not just from what we're tasting, but what generally goes into spicing a rum, you would use a vanilla bean, cloves, cinnamon, allspice, black peppercorns, star anise, nutmeg. You could have ginger in there, orange zest, but removing the pith. That seemed to be quite important because that's the bitter part. There may be other things like sugars, molasses and all that go in as well, depending on your taste. But Pete, that lines up with what we're tasting, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the vanilla. Yeah, to an extent, peppercorns as well. But yes, I mean, it sounds plausible to me. Yeah.
And thinking about the taste here, now, obviously, we've tasted it neat so far. We are going to try it with a mixer as well. Now, my mixer of choice is going to be just a standard Coca-Cola. I bought myself a teeny tiny little can.
Wow, that is small.
What are you mixing with, Pete?
Coke Zero, a 330ml can. Not that it really matters, but yes, let's give that a shot anyway.
Let's do it.
So obviously, proportions are to taste. So I'm at about a third of the Captain Morgan and about 2/3 Coke Zero.
You know what? I've gone about half and half just because I'm worried that I'm going to lose it entirely. Let's find out.
So for me, this is already smelling like a rum and Coke. So that's good on the smell.
It does, actually. You're right. That smell does carry over, mixes with the Coke quite nicely. That's pretty good.
This is a lot better with a mixer. For me, that tastes pretty convincing as a rum and Coke. I mean, obviously it's missing the alcohol and there's nothing you can do about that. But other than that, this tastes like rum and Coke to me.
You're absolutely right. That really works so much better than with it being neat. The smell's very convincing, and it really hits that mouthfeel like a rum and coke. Yes, the alcohol's missing, so you miss that slightly on the aftertaste, but other than that, I think that's very, very convincing. We found the home of a 0% spiced rum. It is with a mixer.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if they give serving suggestions on their website or not, but certainly mixing it with Coke works for me. Really, that's changed my opinion 180 degrees on this drink. It really has.
Looking at their website, there are serving suggestions generally say with a mixer, but they also do show it neat with ice and actually without, just images. So it is open to your choice, but for me, it absolutely works a lot better when it's with that Coke mixer. Now, just to fill in a little bit about how they came along and found this, or developed it rather, Diageo apparently went through more than 400 recipes to find something comparable to Captain Morgan Original Spiced Gold. So that's their alcoholic version. And clearly they are very directly standing this up against that. Since then, it has gone on to win a gold medal in the non-alcoholic dark spirit, that's the less than 0.5% ABV round, of the Spirits Business Masters Competition 2024. So winning a big award there. And they particularly praised it for boasting vanilla on the palate and an aroma that's akin to a sweeter style gold rum. I'd think that sounds about right.
Well, I do wonder whether they tried it by itself. I mean, I assume that they did. And so I'm slightly puzzled how it won an award. Maybe the competitors are really bad. I don't know. Because, as I say, with the Coke, I mean, rum and Coke isn't my normal drink of choice, but this is actually very pleasant.
Yeah, I agree. And it really does switch around my opinion on it. I was finding it difficult to love it. But with a Coke, it really works. So, okay, I'm going to throw open that very difficult question to you, Pete. Do you want to go first? Does it get a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
So, remind me how much I can get this for, a bottle of it, a standard-sized, 70 centilitre bottle?
I spotted it for $11.96 at Asda. That was the cheapest I found. Okay,
right. At 12 quid a bottle, I think that's good value. I actually do think that's really good value.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much standard Captain Morgan's cost, but I would guess the best part of 20 quid.
Oh, probably slightly more. Yeah.
Yeah. And so at £12, I think that's an easy thumbs up for me. It makes a very nice rum and coke, and you'll make a lot of rum and cokes out of a bottle of it as well. And for 12 quid, yeah, that's a thumbs up.
I think I'm the same, actually. I was really unsure. The smell was amazing. The taste, neat, really let me down. I just felt very disappointed with it. Felt like something huge was missing. At least 40% was missing. That alcohol and the job the alcohol did. But mix it with a Coke, you end up with a very convincing rum and coke. And I think that's probably the intended way. It does make sense to do it like that. So for me, also a thumbs up.
Great. That is 2 thumbs up for Captain Morgan Spice Gold 0% spirit drink. So our second drink we are tasting this episode is Ålska Nordic Berries 0% cider. So it is a flavoured cider. It is a zero product, 0.0% is labelled.
Yep.
It's in a 500ml bottle, and you can buy it, as we did, for 99 pence from Aldi.
Yeah.
Right, let's get straight to the tasting, I think. So it's a really nice sort of pinky reddy colour.
Very bright, very vibrant, yeah.
Yes, and it's got some carbonation to it as well. Right, let's get in with the nose. Oh, crikey.
That's quite a heady smell, actually.
That is.
That's like, it is quite Ribena-y, but it definitely lifts off more than a Ribena does. There's something else going on there.
Yeah, so I can smell berries. I don't know if I can smell apple, but I can certainly smell sort of berries.
Yes.
Blackcurrant.
Yeah, but I think there's lighter berries as well. Raspberry in there, strawberry, perhaps. That sort of slightly sweeter smell to it. I know we've covered that before about smelling sweetness, but that's what I'm getting.
Right, let's give it a taste. Okay, so that is quite highly carbonated. It tastes like it smells, essentially.
Yes. But you said, can you smell the apple in there? And now I've tasted it, I'm not sure I can taste the appleness coming through, the cideriness coming through. It's a slightly funky, fizzy Ribena, I suppose, or fizzy fruits drink. It doesn't hit like a cider. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it tastes like the kind of flavoured ciders I've had before, like the Copperberg ones. So it's kind of similar to that, almost like the standard ones. I don't think it does a bad job of emulating those kind of weaker, the 3.44% standard ciders.
Yeah.
Particularly the flavoured ones.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it is closer to those clearly. It's billed itself as a flavoured cider, but I don't know. I just expected a little bit more cideriness to come through. That slightly astringent, funky quality, that very distinctive cider feel that's always there underneath everything else. It's just missing for me. Now, I've said before, I'm not a massive fan of cider. That being said, I'm expecting a cider, so I kind of want that element to be there.
I'm definitely getting quite a bit of astringency. There's definitely kind of a drying in my mouth and my throat that's making me want to drink more.
Yeah.
So my first taste of this, not 2 minutes ago, wasn't particularly positive, but I'm actually quite enjoying it now. It doesn't quite feel the same as a Ribena with sparkling water. It's not that difference to it. There's an ever so slight amount of complexity in terms of the astringency, the drying. But other than that, I mean, basically, I think it's pleasant, is what I'm saying. I don't mind it. I quite like it.
Yeah, I think it's almost got tannins in there, or it's that, like you say, that astringency coming through. I find it makes actually speaking on this podcast quite tricky because my mouth is filling up with saliva after the fact, after I've swallowed it. Yes. So it does that job very well. I just think it's worth flagging up that it doesn't necessarily have that cideriness quality, that cider quality coming through strong.
To be honest, there's not a lot to say about it because it's not, in terms of the tasting, because it's not complex. It tastes like it is advertised, I suppose, in terms of it tastes like a flavoured, berry flavoured, in fact, cider. And it's kind of the right level of sweetness. It doesn't feel overly sweet to me, although it is sweet. I don't really have much to add, to be honest, in terms of the taste of it. How about you?
Very fizzy. It's kind of making me go a bit burpy. Again, I quite like it. It's just lacking that overt cideriness that even on fruit ciders I feel should come through a little bit more than this. But, you know, it's not unpleasant.
So, in terms of the serving size and sort of the stats, calories, etc., assuming a 500ml bottle, there are 185 calories in that bottle. Yep. So there's 42 grams of carbs, of which all of them are sugar. So that's 10 teaspoons of sugar. Now, that's very surprising to me because it doesn't taste like 10 teaspoons of sugar in that.
No.
It tastes sweet, but not that sweet.
No, and it doesn't even have the thickness that you would associate with that on the mouthfeel. It feels thinner than that.
It does, but, you know, can you imagine like a mug of tea with like 5 teaspoons of sugar? That's sort of the equivalent. I mean, I can't even imagine that level of sweetness. Whereas in this, apparently, it's got 10 teaspoons.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So it is labelled as vegan, and it's also labelled as gluten-free as well. In terms of the ingredients, just what you'd expect, basically carbonated water, sugar. It's got some cider in there, and including some sulfites, various preservatives, but it has got 2 concentrates which provide a lot, well, some of the flavour at least. It's got apple and hibiscus, and I'm not really sure what a hibiscus tastes like, so I couldn't really tell you if I'm tasting it or not.
No, I'm not sure I can pick it out either.
Fair enough. And then it's got carrots and blackcurrant concentrate, and I'm assuming the carrot, again, is there for colour. You can get red carrots, and rather than orange ones, or they might even be called purple carrots. I think they're called purple carrots. And they're often used for colourings rather than flavourings. So I wonder if that's what the carrot's there for. Yeah, in terms of availability, as you said earlier on, you can only really get it at Aldi, in the UK at least. And it's a standard price. It's 99p. That's the only price you'll ever pay for this, basically. The producer's Ålska cider, and that's basically spelt A with... I'd call it an umlaut because that's what you call it in German. The 2 little dots above the A, LSKA, so Ålska cider. They are, contrary to what I would have thought, not a brand owned by Aldi, but they're instead a brand of the Swedish cider company, even though the only place you can get it in the UK is Aldi.
Okay, because I totally took it to be like Aldi's own brand, but it's not.
It doesn't appear to be. I don't know. So if you go to their website and they say, where you can get this cider, it lists Aldi in the UK and Ireland, and then there's one pub in Sweden, basically, which is apparently down the road from their HQ. And then it says, and other places. And that's the full list. That's the full list. So yes, according to their blurb on their website, it was quote unquote born in Sweden in 2012. Yeah. They're obviously pitching it as a competitor to other flavoured ciders like Kopparberg and Rekorderlig. And like those competitors, they've got a couple of no-low flavours and they've got several standard alcoholic flavours as well.
Yeah.
Now, although it says it's the Swedish cider company and they do list an address in Sweden, it looks to me like the vast majority of their sort of business activities are done in the UK. They're very opaque as to where the cider is actually made. So I mean, I may well be wrong here. I suspect it's made in the UK. Not that it perhaps matters, but they're definitely selling it as being a Swedish cider brand.
Yeah, right on the label at the front, Swedish premium cider.
Yes, but they don't say where it's made. And the only addresses they've got on there is just their address in London and address in Sweden as well. It doesn't say, brewed or made anywhere particular. As far as I'm concerned, this is essentially Aldi's cider because that's the only place you can get it. And I've not seen any evidence to be able to get it anywhere else.
Okay, I think we should come to the big question. Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, and what are your thoughts?
I am a little on the fence with this one. I think it's kind of fine. It's quite nice in a way. It's got that drying quality, so it just about sneaks into feeling like a no-low rather than just feeling like a fizzy, fruity drink. But it's not really to my taste, and that's, of course, the subjective, difficult part of all this. If you like fruit ciders, you might really like this. I'm not massive on cider anyway, and I'm not particularly big on fruit ciders as well. But I just don't know if I would buy it and drink it again. I'm going to give it a thumbs down. I'm just not quite convinced by it. Thumbs down.
I've got a sort of similar thoughts in my head. It's a bit too much like something like Ribena and fizzy water. It's only slightly more complex than that. In fact, if I put maybe a teaspoon of vinegar into Ribena and fizzy water, I think it would approximate this. And so...
Or maybe sherbet, that's something that's adding a little bit more oomph, fizz or something. Yeah.
No, sure. And I think if someone gave this to me at a party, I would drink it and I would think, okay, yeah, it's all right. It's fine. It's inoffensive.
Yeah.
And it's cheap. It's 99 pence. So that's not bad. It's got a lot of sugar. And so I would only ever want to drink one of these. But I think overall, I wouldn't buy it for myself. And I think just because it doesn't taste enough to me like an equivalent of an alcoholic drink. And I would want that for this kind of drink. So for me as well, it's a thumbs down.
Well, there we go. Perhaps surprisingly, that's 2 thumbs down for Ålska Nordic Berries 0.0% cider. And we're going to move swiftly on to the subject of our big chat this week. Is food boozy, or looking at the alcohol levels in food? Pete, this is over to you. It's a big one, isn't it?
It is. So, I mean, if the fundamental question is there alcohol in food, then the answer is yes. In some food and in some drink, there are naturally occurring alcohols. So, as you alluded to or even stated earlier on, we're not talking about sherry trifle and we're not talking about any recipe where alcohol is added as an ingredient.
Yeah.
So, do want to do a bit of a spoiler alert. I want to say that basically all the levels of alcohol in any kind of food are low compared to standard alcoholic drinks like beer or cider.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are low compared to low alcohol beer, like, say, Lucky Saint, something like that.
Okay.
And it's fair to say as well, there are some foods that do have a higher ABV than Lucky Saint. And they may be surprising, but we'll come to that.
Okay.
So why is there alcohol in food? Why is it naturally occurring? Essentially, it's always because yeast is fermenting some simple carbohydrates, some sugars.
Yeah, okay.
Now, in some foods, this is intentional. We intentionally want to ferment or induce fermentation. So I'm thinking things like bread, for example, and vinegar, if it comes from things like wine or cider, and things like soy sauce as well. So soy sauce is traditionally fermented.
But we're fermenting that not to get the alcohol, though.
Yeah, but it's still fermentation, and it's fermentation with yeast to do that. So it's always going to occur, and we know it's going to occur. We are intentionally fermenting this food, and we know there will be alcohol as a byproduct of that, even if it's not the primary output of it. So in contrast to that intentional fermentation, you also get food which has unwanted or maybe unintentional fermentation.
Okay.
So things like fruit juice. So fruit juice will basically contain natural yeast, either from the fruit themselves or from the air. So things like apples or grapes, they have naturally occurring yeast on the skin. And so when they're crushed, you will get yeast within the juice itself. And there's a window in which that yeast can interact with the sugar in that juice and produce alcohol.
Okay.
Other fruit as well can naturally ferment. So bananas can, as they ripen, they will ferment to an extent as well.
We touched on this before, and I remember being shocked, like really, really surprised that there's alcohol in bananas. But I suppose laying it out like that, of course, it makes sense. There's sugars involved and there's natural yeasts. So the more ripe they get, the more alcohol you get. Is that right?
Yeah, basically, that's true. And it's essentially both of these things are everywhere. So sugars are everywhere in food. Yeasts are literally everywhere as well. And so unless you stop this process of fermentation happening, it will happen to some extent. I'm going to come straight to how much alcohol there is, because this is sort of the main point of it. So it has been measured. There was a study in 2016 in Germany, which was published in the Journal of Analytical Toxicology. And it basically analysed levels of alcohol in common food and drink. And basically their reason behind this was to see how much alcohol children were consuming naturally in their diet.
Okay.
Because they were essentially concerned with the total amount of ethanol that kids were consuming on a daily basis. Because obviously we don't want kids to be drinking or consuming alcohol.
Okay.
So this is the source of a lot of figures online. If you Google alcohol in food, then this particular 2016 study will be the source of these figures. Here's what they found. Now, I'm going to round these to the nearest 0.1% or 0.1 grams, because no one wants me to trot out loads of figures when I don't need to.
Enough, yeah.
And also, I just want to compare them to kind of Nolo drinks as well. So I'm going to compare them to two drinks. Lucky Saint, which is 0.5% ABV.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Guinness Zero, which has 0.05%, so a tenth of the alcohol that Lucky Saint has.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so in the juices, apple, orange, grape, they tested all of those. The maximum that they found was 0.1% ABV.
Okay.
So low. So a fifth of that in Lucky Saint, but twice as much as in Guinness Zero.
Wow.
And that was the maximum amount. So they tested lots of different juices from lots of different sources, and the maximum was 0.1%. White wine vinegar has 0.3% ABV.
Okay, yeah.
So 3/5 as much as Lucky Saint. Soy sauce, Kikkoman, who are a massive brand of soy sauce, possibly the biggest sort of worldwide, they say that their soy sauce contains less than 2% ABV.
Okay, right.
So compared to Lucky Saint, there's 4 times as much alcohol in soy sauce as there is in Lucky Saint.
But you're not going to get a round of soy sauce shots in.
I mean, you could.
I don't think it would last very long in your stomach. I think it would come out.
Indeed. So when we're talking about solid food rather than liquids, talking about ABV doesn't make much sense, because when you're thinking or buying solid food like bread, you don't buy it in volume. In the sense of, you don't buy a litre of bread. That's true. Or how many bananas do you eat a week? Oh, about 2.5 pints. You just don't, you just don't think of it like that. And so basically, instead, what you look at is grams of ethanol per 100 grams.
Yeah.
And that's not a direct translation, but anyway, if you mashed up a banana, ripe bananas would contain 0.2 grams per 100 grams. Now, that works out as being about 0.25% ABV, just because ethanol grams to millilitres they're not equivalent. Mm-hmm. So that's half of Lucky Saint. Very ripe is about double that. So it's about 0.5% ABV. It's 0.4 grams per 100 grams. So that's about the same as Lucky Saint or other 0.5% low alcohol drinks. So it is equivalent. And then in bread, I'm not even going to bother doing ABV, because at least you can sort of picture a mashed up banana in a pint glass. But like with bread, it's kind of like, the upshot is, so they tested a load of bread. Now, this was in Germany, so it was lots of German kinds of bread. Lots of rye were involved, and
pumpernickel.
And pumpernickel. Exactly that. So I'm just going to kind of do the more familiar ones to our UK listeners. Yeah. So rye bread or wheat rolls were 0.2 grams per 100 grams.
Okay.
So a sort of 0.2%, sort of. And then the one sort of outlier was American-style burger rolls. So, the kind of seeded, perfect-looking ones that you see.
Yes.
They are 1.3 grams per 100 grams, so 1.3% by weight, which again is quite high, higher than you'd think.
Yeah. I wonder why. Do we know why?
Right. If I had to guess, then I would say it's because it has to sit and prove for quite some time to rise.
To get soft and
fluffy,
spongy,
and at the same time that it's proving, because the reason it's proving is because it's fermenting. It's proving because of the carbon dioxide is being produced, but it's not only
the yeast is doing. Yeah,
absolutely. But it's not only the carbon dioxide that's being produced; it's also alcohol.
That makes sense. And just to be clear, I mean, these are the sorts of rolls that if you forget about it in your bread bin, you might come across them, I don't know, a week or two later, and they seem exactly the same. But that's because of the preservatives. That's got nothing to do with this level of alcohol. That's not enough to preserve it.
Yeah, that's the preservatives. So, yes, those are the sort of figures we're talking about. So from kind of like lowest to highest, fruit juices, very little alcohol, between none and 0.1%. So about the same as Guinness Zero on average, to be honest, in terms of alcohol. Then most bread is going to be about 0.2% by weight. Most bananas, just ever so slightly more than that, maybe 0.25. Very ripe will have about 0.5%, same as Lucky Saint.
Yep.
And then at the top of the list, in terms of alcohol levels, we've got burger buns at about 1.3%.
I mean, it's so surprising. It's so left field. But, I mean, it makes sense when you explain it. But yeah, if you just said that as a list without explaining it, I would definitely be questioning that.
No, absolutely. So I want to do a bit of an aside now. So that's the alcohol levels in food. So that's sort of covered. But if you were to Google this, alcohol levels in food, or go to lots of manufacturers of low alcohol, by which I mean 0.5% drinks, they will also quote figures at you, which are either directly stated as being from this 2016 German study, or you can infer that they are because they use the same figures as everyone else does. But they're almost always quoting it incorrectly, almost all of it.
Wow, okay.
So basically, when they're taking the figures from the study, they're directly converting them to ABV, but incorrectly.
So hang on, do we need to put on our tinfoil hats here? We're kind of doing a deep dive into the dark web or the conspiracy theory side of things.
I'm glad you prompted me with that, because no, that's not true. But
okay, fine.
But and also, I think it's fair to say that I don't believe that any of these companies are doing this deliberately. I think that I think there's probably one source that did this bad conversion, and then everyone else has basically found it and gone, yeah, that sounds about right. And if you ask Google AI or ChatGPT or whatever, they will also return the wrong figures, because they're getting these figures from all these websites belonging to the manufacturers.
It ripples out, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, as I say, the issue is they're converting the figures that the study uses into an ABV, and they're doing it completely wrongly. One thing that you can't do is convert grams of ethanol per 100 grams into millilitres per 100 mil.
Okay.
Because the weight of ethanol is lighter. So basically, the amount of volume it takes up is more. So if you had 1 gram...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If you had 1 gram of ethanol in 100 grams, that's equivalent to essentially about 1.27 mil of ethanol in 100
Which
mil.
stacks up pretty quick, actually.
Yeah, it does. So actually, they're underreporting the amount of alcohol in these solid foods, because what they're saying is that 1 gram equals 1 mil, and that isn't true. So when they're comparing their beer or cider to the solid foods, they're getting it wrong. So that's mistake number 1. But mistake number 2 is far worse than that. So basically, all the figures given in the study for liquids are millilitres of ethanol per litre.
Yeah.
So how many mils are there in 1 litre?
1,000?
Yes. So what would happen if we said, okay, here's 1 millilitre of ethanol in 1,000 mil, and just said, okay, that's the same as 1%.
Oh, they've times it by 10.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically...
So this is Chris level of bad maths. But I was able to crack the code. Amazing.
To be fair, so in the study it says grams per litre, so it actually works out as being 8 times, because you've got to convert grams to mils and then whatever. 1 gram per litre is equivalent to 1.27 millilitres per litre. So all the figures, they're not 10 times out, they're only 8 times out in terms of overstating it. Yeah, so if you go to these manufacturers of low alcohol beer and cider, they'll say that orange juice can have up to 0.8% ABV, or 0.75 is the figure normally given. And that's 8 times higher. It should be about 0.09% ABV.
Yeah. So they've got themselves in a real tizwas.
I think what it is, just fundamentally, I don't think they're deliberately setting out to deceive anybody. But I think that essentially, if your goal is to basically say, look, there's hardly any alcohol in these drinks.
Yeah.
Look how much there is in food. You're going to take the figures that kind of fit your mental model already. And if there's a source online which says this, and you're going to think, yeah, okay, that sounds about right, that's what we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, that is the good faith interpretation of it. The bad faith interpretation would be, this is what we want it to say. We found some figures that support it. Don't probe too deeply. No. I don't know. That's the counter argument, isn't it?
It is. Like I say, I don't believe that. I don't think that it's because of that. I think partially because it looks really bad if someone calls them out.
Sweet and innocent Pete.
Yeah, sure.
Stumbling through life, just believing everything, and large multinational companies are on your side.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not really talking about the large multinational companies, because the larger companies produce zero beers. And it's the smaller producers who produce the low alcohol stuff who probably haven't done the research themselves. They've just literally lifted.
Yeah. I do see where you're coming from with all this. And if you find it in not one source but lots of different sources online, at some point you go, well, that seems quite credible. So yeah.
Yeah. I think, like I say, particularly if you're asking ChatGPT and it gives you some links and it says exactly that, yeah, fine. So anyway, that was an aside. So just back to the amount of alcohol. So you alluded to it earlier on. Should we be worried about the amount of alcohol?
I think that's the big question. Should we be worried?
So, as I say, we see a lot of equivalence in terms of, obviously we should treat 0% alcohol-free beer as alcohol-free because it has the same amount of alcohol as bananas. Or, you shouldn't worry about alcohol because, you eat soy sauce and that's got alcohol in it. It's got 2% alcohol. So those are the kind of arguments, but it completely ignores the quantity that you consume. Yes. The dose makes the poison. I'm not calling alcohol a poison, although, but it is the amount of it that matters. So, fine. So soy sauce is 2%. Or it could be up to 2% alcohol. But your average recipe is maybe a tablespoon or 2 per serving?
Yeah.
So
splash it in, but you're not going glug, 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 glug.
No, so I had a quick look at some recipes that included soy sauce on the BBC Good Food website. And the most I could find was like a tablespoon per serving. So even being generous, that's like 2 tablespoons is 30 ml. So 30 ml of this liquid at 2% is nothing. That's so little alcohol. Yeah. So that is a third of a can of Lucky Saint. Even though it's 2% alcohol, your average portion size is a third of a can of Lucky Saint, or maybe a fifth of a pint of Lucky Saint.
Yeah.
So how many bananas count as a single can of Lucky Saint? It's 3. It's 3
very ripe bananas.
3 very ripe bananas equals 1 can of Lucky Saint. Now, I could quite easily drink 3 cans, and I would struggle, I would dare to say, eating 9 bananas in one sitting. I don't know about you, Chris.
Who could eat that many? Yeah, that's a lot. And particularly the very sweet ones. Oh, a bit much.
Oh, I couldn't eat one. I just find them overly ripe. They're awful. Or, if you have a pint of Lucky Saint, that's 4.5 bananas, very ripe bananas. It doesn't, you can't compare them because the portion size is so out of whack.
You could say it's like comparing apples and oranges or ripe bananas with Lucky Saint.
Well, speaking of oranges, how many litres of orange juice would equal 1 can of Lucky Saint?
Oh, it's going to have to be like 3 litres.
Almost. It's 1.5 litres.
It's a lot. You're chugging a lot.
I couldn't drink 1.5 litres of orange juice.
Acid overload. Yeah.
And even burger buns. So burger buns are around 1.3% by weight. So I had to look for some large burger buns. So Tesco large burger buns, they're 84 grams a piece. Yeah. So that's equivalent. Eating one of those is the equivalent of just under a can of Lucky Saint.
Okay.
Which, again, is fine. And if you're going to have like 1 burger or 1 can of Lucky Saint, then that's a pretty good sort of equivalence that works quite well. Yeah. But, not if you're going to have a pint of Lucky Saint. That's like 2 burger buns, which, at a barbecue, fine. Any other kind of like food situation, I'm not sure I would.
If you're stacking up your 6th burger bun of the day, I don't think the alcohol content is your big problem.
No, absolutely. And you go to the pub, you have 2 or 3 pints, and that's 4 or 6 burger buns. So even though it's like ostensibly a higher concentration of alcohol, because each portion size is only 84 grams compared to either 330 ml or 568 ml, it's sort of misleading to basically say that, wow, these are stronger than our drink, so therefore you shouldn't be worried about our drink.
Yeah. And
I think for most people, just wrapping that up, it's the total amount of alcohol consumed that's the most important, not the strength of that serving size. The serving size is what really matters.
Yes, so it's not just about that there is this amount of alcohol in something. It's how that accumulates, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. It's like how much you're going to consume in one sitting. Yeah. And, it's far easier to consume more alcohol in low alcohol beers than it is in any of these food or drink types. So, but does it matter? Does it matter about alcohol in food? Does it matter that, that these beers are 0.5%, whatever? And to be honest, it depends. It depends on why people are trying to avoid alcohol. So if you're not trying to avoid alcohol, clearly it doesn't matter, basically. And if you are avoiding alcohol, it depends why you're doing that. So if it's for medical reasons, then I probably wouldn't worry about apple juice or orange juice at 0.1% maximum, whereas I might worry about a 0.5% low alcohol beer, for example.
Sure.
I think similarly, if you're avoiding alcohol for religious or ethical reasons, I think actually intent has a lot to do with it. So if something's sort of naturally occurring anyway, and you didn't mean for it to happen in things like juices, and there's a very low amount of alcohol. I mean, I can't speak for all world religions, obviously, but I mean, personally, if I was going to do it from an ethical perspective, I would have less problem with juice than I would with a 0.5% beer.
And again, it will come down to the person, once they're aware of this, making that call themselves. It's what I suppose they're happy with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's very true. And then, things like pregnancy as well, I suppose, are sort of medical reasons. You might be happy with the amount of alcohol in juice or in bread in terms of the serving size. Again, you're not going to eat a whole loaf of bread. So whereas you might not be happy with it in low alcohol beer. And as you say, that's totally up to the individual in terms of their comfort level with alcohol in general. I think for most people, even most people who are trying to avoid alcohol, right, none of these foods should worry you unless you've got a specific reason to avoid alcohol in any quantity. And to be honest, similarly, I think most low alcohol beer is fine for most people. You're not going to feel the effects from 0.5% beer. You have 2 cans of Lucky Saint, you're not going to feel drunk.
Well, particularly if you're used to having sandwiches for your lunch every day,
you've
built up a tolerance.
This is it. But one thing I would say is that food labelling is really, really important. And we label food not for most people, but for the people who care about that constituent part of the food.
Sure.
So that's why we label for common allergies, things like wheat or barley and, sulfites and crustaceans and all that kind of stuff. For most people, these things will not have any effect. Personally, I don't care if what I eat is gluten-free or not, but I think that things with gluten should have that labelled on it, for example.
Yeah, because it helps people that need to know that.
Yes. And similarly, the argument that because these different foods contain alcohol means that a 0.5% beer should be labelled as no alcohol or non-alcoholic or alcohol-free. For similar reasons, I think that's an argument that I don't agree with, because I think that people will want to know about this 0.5%, and the reasons that are given, that it's equivalent to orange juice, which it categorically isn't, or that it's equivalent to burger buns, which only if you're eating a ridiculous amount of burgers.
Yes, because I think actually what we're talking here is about being honest and open or disingenuous. And there's just an element of, if things are labelled saying, well, it's so small, it's, we'll just count it as 0. But actually it isn't 0. And someone might care about that, or there might be a reason to care about it. And I think the consumer should have the knowledge to make that choice. That's always the side I'm going to take on that.
Indeed, absolutely. So there's a final part that I wanted to cover, but time's getting on a bit, so I'm going to put it into the after hours.
Oh, good idea.
And that is when we add alcohol to food in recipes. Maybe that's a glass of red wine and some pasta sauce. Maybe it's flambeing, although that's not so much at home. Or maybe at Christmas, I don't know. Yeah, but how much alcohol remains in it? And that's a question, and we'll cover that in after hours.
Great.
So there we are. Is there alcohol in food? Yes, there is, both naturally occurring and added. And with the naturally occurring stuff, sometimes we want it, sometimes we don't. There is alcohol in food. The levels, however, are very low, very, very low. So much so that most people certainly won't worry about it. But perhaps if you do have medical reasons to avoid alcohol, you want to be aware of that.
I think that's fair. Thank you, mate. Thank you. That was a deep dive. It took us to places that I didn't expect it to go, but interesting. No, interesting. And like I say, it is potentially shocking because it wasn't on my radar before this came up in a previous episode. So definitely worth walking us through it. And interesting stuff. Thank you. So, moving on to our third and final tasting for this episode, we have Trip Lemon Basil CBD drink. Now, this is actually our second CBD drink that we've tasted because, of course, we had the kombucha, the hip hop kombucha, which also had CBD in it. But we wanted to come to Trip because it is a major player. It is the largest CBD brand in the UK.
Okay.
A little bit more on that to come. But what is it? What have we got here? Now, they describe it as a flavoured sparkling water infused with 15 milligrams of CBD. As mentioned, the flavour itself is lemon basil, lightly sparkling. We picked this up in Sainsbury's for £1.60 with your Nectar card, or it's £2. The can itself is 250 mils. It is alcohol-free, caffeine-free. Pete, should we open it up?
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
So, on initial pour, now just to say, I've never tasted this before. Have you, Pete?
No, I haven't. No.
Ah, okay, so we're both new to this.
Yeah.
Now, pouring it out, there's some nice carbonation. It looks kind of like lemonade, actually. It's got that slightly yellowy apple juice kind of look to it.
But it's cloudy lemonade. There's a lot of haze to it.
There is actually, you're right. Now, going in for a smell. Now, it has almost a lemonade-y smell to it, but there is something else. There's a kind of a herby funk to it. That must be the basil, but it's slightly odd, I'm going to say.
I'm struggling to get much out of it smell-wise, to be honest. I mean, certainly compared to the previous two drinks, which smelled like quite a lot. Yeah, I think you're right. There's a bit of lemon, and there's something else there, but I couldn't tell you what it was without reading the can.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Knowing that it's basil that they flavoured it with, I'm guessing that's what I'm smelling as well.
No, absolutely. I want to just get in and try it and to see if it improves.
Well, let's do that.
Well, it tastes a lot more lemony than it smells like, so that's a positive.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't taste particularly sweet to me. It's kind of, and it's still quite muted. So it's kind of like a lemonade that has some herbal elements. I mean, I really like the taste of basil, and I'm just not getting it here.
Same. Yeah, I'm a big fan of basil. It is, yes, like a kind of, I'm going to say a posh lemonade. It doesn't have that overly sweet, chemically sweet taste that cheap lemonade has. It's more like a posh, cloudy lemonade. But it is quite muted, and it doesn't lift off like a lemonade does. It doesn't feel very sprightly, very sharp or full of life, like a real flavoursome lemonade does. And there is that slightly herby quality to it a bit, but it's not directly basil. I'm not really getting a lot of it coming through.
So I think part of this is because there's a lack of sweetness, and sweetness can adds body, and it can often sort of rebound fruit flavours off it as well. Sure. So because it's not very sweet, there's some astringency to it. It makes it more interesting, certainly. But there's not an awful lot going on there to my taste.
No, and the drying quality feels a little bit like if you just got lemon juice into fizzy water. That sort of, like remember when you were a kid and you get lemon juice, I actually just try and drink a little bit.
Yeah, no, sure.
And then what it does to your mouth, it kind of makes you screw your mouth up and your eyes up. But afterwards, your mouth is very dried out from it. Is that a pleasant thing? Do I find it satisfying? Yeah,
it's definitely sour, like you say, as if you were adding a bit of lemon into sparkling water. You would approach the flavours that you get from this. And it's okay. I'm at a solid meh at the moment, I think.
Okay, fair enough. So just to look at some of the stats. Calories, there's 20 calories per can. That's 1.7 grams of sugar per 100 mils. So for a total of 4.25 grams in a 250 ml can. Although it is sweetened with stevia, which is that artificial fructose, isn't it?
Yeah, they haven't put a lot of stevia in this, I have to say, because it's not very sweet. I
No,
would
it
expect it
isn't.
to be more sweet.
That's right. It is vegan. It's labelled as such. It is gluten-free as well. And just to look at the ingredients, well, water, fruit juices from concentrate, that's lemon, 7%, and grape, but no percentage given. I couldn't find it. Weird. They also say there are botanical extracts, lemon balm, ginseng, and chamomile, and the CBD extract itself. Natural flavourings, lemon, lime, and basil, and a natural flavour enhancer, erythritol.
I'm guessing that's pronunciation. I have no idea. I've never heard anyone pronounce it before.
No,
I'm going to say that's valid, personally. That's
Fair
valid.
enough. So just to cover some of the other flavours that they have, their CBD infused drinks include elderflower, mint, lemon basil, as we're having, peach ginger, raspberry orange blossom, and apple blossom. Coming on to the CBD element of this. It is strictly for adults only, so this product is not suitable for persons under the age of 18. Now, I then asked the question, is that by law? And I found out, actually, in the UK, there is no legally defined age for purchasing CBD products. However, the Food Standards Agency states on their website, as a precaution, we do not recommend CBD for people in vulnerable groups unless under medical direction. This includes children, those under the age of 18, people taking any medication, those trying to conceive, and those who are pregnant or breastfeeding. So, we've skirted this as an issue for quite a long time, Pete, this issue of CBD. I asked you just ahead of this episode, and I'll ask you now, is this something we're going to return to in depth? Because it feels like there's quite a lot to get into here.
So I think if you're looking at no and low alcohol drinks, and as we've always said, alternatives for soft drinks in themselves, and particularly drinks that are aimed at adults, I mean, explicitly so in this particular case, even though there's no alcohol involved, then functional drinks like CBD drinks, the umbrella term is functional. If it does something other than, please your taste buds, if there's some kind of psychotropic effect, either real or alleged, that's a functional drink. And the CBD is a big part of that market. So there's a lot out there. As you say, it's why we covered hip hop CBD kombucha a few episodes ago. So yes, it's something that I want to look into. I've not actually experienced anything other than the taste of these drinks. So I've had a couple now, and I can't say that it's made any difference to my mental state. And so I'd like to examine what the evidence is for that and, what's out there, that kind of thing. Long story short, yes, I think CBD products are definitely something we need to do a deep dive into in a future episode.
And actually, when we tasted that hip hop kombucha, afterwards, you asked me, did I feel anything from it? And I hadn't even kind of paid attention to if I had, so nothing overt had come out. I'm a little bit more aware of it now because you asked that question. So I'm going to be kind of paying a little bit more attention to myself over the rest of the day, I suppose, to see if I feel anything from this CBD. Watch this space, we'll let you know.
Absolutely.
So, Pete, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think? Is it a thumbs up or thumbs down?
I mean, long story short, I think it's a thumbs down. I mean, I don't have an opinion on CBD. And I think that if you were to buy this for the CBD and you felt that that was a benefit to it, I suppose it's fine. It doesn't taste unpleasant. It's not that expensive. As long as you buy it on offer. I think it's, $160 or so, wasn't it? I think it tastes disappointing. Not of disappointment, but I just think it could be so much more in terms of, if it just had more sugar in it and if I could taste the basil more. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a slightly misleading can in that I was expecting more lemon or more sweetness and more basil. And because I'm not bothered about the CBD, it's quite expensive for me. So for that reason, it's a thumbs down.
One thing I always think about with fizzy drinks, soft drinks, is that they're too sweet for me. I don't want to drink lots of them because they're, I don't want that level of sugar coming into my body. But I just find them very sweet to taste them. And this one, weirdly, is growing on me precisely because it's not very sweet.
Yeah.
But it feels a bit like it falls into the category of the mocktails that we had. that are purposefully not that sweet, but actually do have a little bit of flavour, complexity, and are very sippable. This makes sense to me when I sip it. Not really as a soft drink, but much more like a kind of a short drink, if you like.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. Yes, I think it is fairly sippable. You wouldn't just want to knock it back. Yeah, that's very true.
That's right. So weirdly, thinking of it like a kind of lemonade, but less sweet, I like that sharpness to it. There's a sort of sourness to it, and I like what it's doing, drying my mouth out. I'm kind of tempted to go back for more. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Well, there you go. So that is 1 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down for Trip Lemon Basil CBD drink.
So there you have it, another episode of Minus the Hangover. And contrary to our usual modus operandi, this one was, well, somewhat boozy food for thought.
Very nice. Food for thought, like it. I'm a big fan of puns.
I had to get it in. And it was, of course, also an episode that contained quite literally our first spirit to keep our spirits high. Did it work? Only you, dear listeners, only you can say.
I have to say, for me, that pun worked less well than the boozy food for thought. But, you know, as you say, our listeners can judge.
You can't thumb up or thumb down my puns. Right? You just get them whether you like them or not.
Only
That's
secretly. Yes.
Yeah. As ever, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, or in whatever weird and wonderful ways you usually find your podcasts. Please give us a follow on basically any and all of the socials. Just search at Minus the Hangover, all one word. And if you've got a question you'd like to put to us or a drink you'd like us to taste, either as a consumer or as a producer, please do get in touch.
And we've also got an email address as well, which is hello@minusthehangover.com.
So, Pete, what's on the drinks menu for next episode?
So next episode is going to be our Christmas special.
Ooh.
So we're going to be taking a look at the kind of no-low versions of sort of traditionally Christmas drinks. So we're going to look at like a sparkling white wine, you know, mulled wine, other things that you drink at Christmas that don't immediately spring to mind.
Well, this is the tricky thing, because actually we're waiting to see what hits the shelves in the run-up to Christmas, to see what's on offer. We don't just kind of want to pluck something that you can get all year round. We want it specifically to be aimed for Christmas. So it's a little bit of an open question, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping for some nice kind of carbonated stuff as well. So obviously mulled wine feels very festive to me, but I'm hoping for other kind of spiced things. I know I have seen like a spiced tonic, which could be quite nice, for example. So I mean, that's just throwing a random idea out there. I'm looking forward to seeing what the producers will bring out, because I'm sure, because no-lows are getting more and more popular, there's going to be a big market for them, both in December for Christmas and obviously in January as well. So yes, I semi-confidently predict we're going to see lots of new drinks being released over the coming weeks.
So there we go. Thanks for joining us at Minus the Hangover with me, Christophe Phillips.
And me, Pete Mason.
And have a great week and enjoy whatever drink takes your fancy. Minus the Hangover. Hello again, this is Christophe, and I'm back with the usual after-hours sneak peek, this time on my own. Why? Because Pete is away. He's living it up in New Zealand for a few weeks. Don't worry, he will be back in time to record the After Hours episode itself, the proper one, where we look back and reflect on the main episode. He just wasn't around to record this little sneak peek. So, I just wanted to fill you in a little bit on what we can expect for that special After Hours on episode 9. Well, there are a few things we're going to get into. We're going to look at if Pete was right to call those 2 dots above the A in Ålska an umlaut, or if there's another name for it. We're going to be looking at if we did indeed feel any of the effects from CBD in the Trip Lemon Basil. But mostly, we're going to bring you a really interesting chunk of content. This is what Pete was talking about in his big chat, where he was looking at the alcohol levels found in food. And he said at the time there wasn't enough space in the main episode to get into, well, the alcohol that's left in food when we add it on purpose, like red wine in bolognese. So we're going to be taking a deep dive, that extra content that didn't make it into the main episode, and lots more, actually, because there's plenty to look back and reflect on in episode 9. So join us in about a week's time for After Hours episode 9, where we look back and reflect. Join the conversation.